He's going to be playing against Colin Logan. Logan playing Death and Taxes.
And this is a very troubling matchup for Death and Taxes. Death and Taxes has usually a pretty solid combo matchup with a variety of tools. Phyrexian Revoker, very good against a class of decks. Karakas, very good against a class of decks. Thalia, very good against a class of decks. Some mixture of these cards are going to interact with your combo opponent. Elves is pretty much the one exception, where none of those pieces matter very much. And as a result of this, Death and Taxes has a poor matchup. You cannot mana deny them because they have so many mana producing elves. Your ostensibly anti-combo cards don't really work in the matchup. So your game plan is try to buy enough time to get Umezawa's Jitte on a creature. And elves is capable of killing so fast that that's a very hard mission to accomplish.
Now this is funny, these two players have run into each other before, oddly enough. Colin Logan is a champion of the Open Series, did win SCG Kansas City last year with Death and Taxes. You may be wondering who he beat in the finals. I think you can figure out the answer to my question.
I'm guessing it's Matt Hoey?
You're correct. You're correct. Hoey was not playing elves then, but he is playing elves now. And for Hoey, it is a good matchup, so we'll see if he's able to take advantage of this, maybe get a little revenge here on Colin Logan as he starts things off with a Nettle Sentinel.
And it really speaks to the diversity of the Legacy format that, a deck as interactive as Death and Taxes struggles to interact with a class of decks in the format.
Karakas plus Aether Vial is a fantastic start here for Logan. One of the best starts that Death and Taxes can have. One could argue the best start. It's going to take that and a whole lot more to beat elves, however, as here comes Nettle Sentinel in for 2 points of damage. Logan is down to 18.
And in fact, this is one of the matchups where it's possible it's just too slow of a card.
A Deathrite Shaman, a Windswept Teeth, and a passing of the turn.
Please check those pairings. And
Vial's going to go up to 1.
Standard Premier IQ players. Modern Premier IQ players.
And we'll see what Colin can put together on his second turn of the game.
You have 50 minutes.
These are the two most popular archetypes here in day number 2. Again, 11 copies of Elves, 9 copies of Death and Taxes among the 126 players doing battle.
And you can see Colin's reservation here. Even if he casts something as good as Stoneforge, missing getting Umezawa's Jitte, no guarantee he even gets a third turn. And he might be resigned to just porting Matt and hoping that that disrupts him. So keep in mind, this Windswept Teeth, who gets a Dryad Arbor. The Deathrite Shaman can then make mana with the Windswept Teeth in the graveyard.
Looks like we're going to go the Spear of the Labyrinth route, try to shut down Glimpse. Hoey going to quickly sacrifice his Windswept Teeth. We'll see if it'll be a Dryad Arbor or not.
And you can see Hoey, he had an opportunity to try to set up his draw to maybe Glimpse, but de-emphasizing it a little bit this game with Natural Order in hand, which is a much safer route to victory against Death and Taxes, something that can't be disrupted by something like Thalia. Spear of the Labyrinth is very solid against Death and Taxes. It's one of its better elements in this matchup. Very solid against Elves, rather. Capable of shutting down both Glimpse and Elvish Visionary.
Yeah. A lot better than you would think, that's for sure. There's a Reclamation Sage.
Want, want.
Wow. Oh, well done, Mr. Hoey on the draw step. Vial going to put in Mother of Runes, a little late to the party, not able to protect the Spirit of the Labyrinth. As Vial will take up to 2. Logan will take a draw. Hoey with just 3 cards in hand. One of them's a Glimpse. Another is a Natural Order. Both very effective cards in this matchup.
Standard Premier IQ players. Everyone's still trying to find their seat here.
And all of this is for not in the long term unless Colin finds Stoneforge missing. That's the other thing. He can hold off for a little while with mana denial and build up a board, but it's going to be hard for him to start attacking. And unless he can get Jitte in play very quickly, Matthew will overwhelm him one way or the other.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Game number 1 oftentimes revolves around Umezawa's Jitte. Upkeep going to port the Dryad Arbor, will Logan. Hoey will take a draw step here. Elvish Visionary is what he's picked up.
And Hoey is a little pinned on mana.
Yeah.
No food for the Deathrite Shaman. Only 1 land available. He's about to get hit by double port starting next turn if Colin can make a 4th land drop. 2 vials in play. The problem with it all is, as good as this looks, Hoey is simply a critical away from ending the game.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Hoey just going to play Deathrite Shaman and pass the turn. We'll get a Vial activation. And that'll put a Revoker into play. Death and Taxes trying to make things difficult on Hoey, not letting him play a game of Magic. That's the big plan. So Logan's going to name here with the Phyrexian Revoker. As we head over to his turn, Vial going to tick up to 1. Other one's going to go up to 3. The Revoker goes with Wirewood Symbiote in this instance.
Makes some sense because if Hoey is able to get Symbiote plus Reclamation Sage going here, given Colin's board, forget about it.
Yeah.
Deathbred Shaman not that threatening right now as, again, no real food.
Looks like Revoker wants to work its way into the red zone.
Well, you got Mother Runes active.
Yeah. Suppose it's rather safe, so it will come in.
Also, you got to start attacking at some point because I know Colin knows Hoey's probably a draw step away from killing him one way or the other.
Yeah. Port's going to go to Dryad Arbor again. Hoey's going to draw.
Speaking of which,
Yep, there's a Guy's Cradle.
that should do it.
Or at least pretty gosh darn close.
Colin, you had a good run, did some cool stuff, but now this is happening.
5 green mana. There's Natural Order. And all Colin can do is shrug his shoulders and say, I wish I didn't have it. Yep, resolves. Guy's Cradle is a very powerful Magic card.
Yep.
And the fact that these elves that can play 4.
Casually tapping for 5 green.
Yep.
Pretty powerful.
Irish Craterhoof Behemoth. Trigger, they're getting bigger.
So 25, 32, 33, 34, 36 minus 1 blocker, so that's 35. So Colin can generate 20 points of toughness through his, nope, can't do it through the vials.
Oh, can't do it. Can't do it. Okay, that's good. So yeah, that's why we have you here. I think it's important, that analysis.
Listen, you just got to know what his outs are.
You do. That level of analysis is why you're going to be here for a while.
Yep. Thanks, man.
Matt Hoey wins game number 1 here against Colin Logan. Elves predictably up a game over Death and Taxes. We turn our attention to the sideboard. We will start with Logan. What does he have, if anything, against Elves?
2 copies of Cataclysm, 2 Enlightened Tutors, a Containment Priest, 2 copies of Council's Judgment, 2 Rest in Peace, a COP Red, a Humility, a Memriki Gasari, a Meekstone, a Grafdigger's Cage, and an Aethersworn Canvas. Not even a lot to really bring in here. I think Containment Priest is fine, stops Zenith in Natural Order, but there's not a lot going on.
No.
Not a lot for this matchup.
The way that Elves plays against Death and Taxes, it's just very hard for Death and Taxes to win it. They just don't really have any great hate cards either. You have to get equipment online. That's the big trick.
And you know what? I actually like this approach from Colin of there's a lot of people who have really bad game 1 matchups and then they sideboard 11 or 12 cards to try to beat it. And often I've taken the philosophy of like, why even try? Just be willing to concede a percentage of your matchups and focus on the matchups where you can actually make a difference. Like, are you really losing game 1 a huge percentage of the time, then sideboarding a bunch of cards and that makes you likely to win the match all of a sudden? No, you probably go from 10% to 30% to win the match.
Yeah.
So better just kick it to the curb, accept your losses to Elves, and focus on other decks.
On the flip side of things for Hoey, he has 3 copies of Abrupt Decay, 3 Thoughtseizes, 3 Cabal Therapy, a March Casualties, a Sylvan Library, a Progenitus, a Pithy Needle, a Gaddock Teague, and a Scavenging Unit. So he has some options here that we discussed, but you're not going to find anything that says, I want to be Death and Taxes, because the matchup's so good already.
Yeah, I think that you're not going to see the discard spells come in. You may see Abrupt Decay come in because Hoey wants to answer Umezawa's Jitte and other problems and permanents, so I think it's fine to bring in that. I think the Pithy Needle can come in for similar reasons. Hoey wants some more answers to equipment. And I think the 1 Progenitus is fine here because Colin has no way to punish him for it. He can get it from a very low base via Natural Order, and Colin's deck is not especially fast, so racing is tough. Progenitus is a way to beat Umezawa's Jitte. When Jitte gets online, Craterhoof Behemoth is often shut off because your board just deteriorates too quickly. But if you're able to sneak a creature into play, go get Progenitus, you have a shot at winning.
Well, game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment between Hoey and Logan in the rematch.
Yes.
Of the finals of SCGKC, where Logan was able to get the job done over Matthew for the title. But while we do wait, we will talk about the winter collection here at Star City Games. We've got new sleeves, new playmats, new dice bags to kick off 2015.
Yeah, we got the wolf pin on, the mammoth from last month, the rat and the turtle witness available in card sleeves, playmats, and dice bags. You can head over to starcitygames.com/creature collection to get your various items today, or head over to our dealer booth at any Open or Grand Prix where Star City Games happens to have a booth.
The turtle witness has been rather popular among the players this weekend as far as sleeves, playmats, and dice bags are concerned.
We've seen quite a few.
Yes, we have. So again, starcitygames.com/creature collection for more information about that, as game number 2 about to be underway here between Hoey and Logan. Hoey kind of flying under the radar, actually. Not only in this tournament, kind of this year, though. Number 19 on our Open Series leaderboard. He's only a couple spots away from buys. And we have seen him win Open Series events before and done a really nice job with Stoneforge Mystic, though he's picking up the Elves this weekend.
And I like that metagame call. Well, like I said earlier, if I was going to play a combo deck this weekend, I think I would have gone with Elves. People probably lightening the amount of anti-small creature stuff they have going on. Now with Blue-Red Delver out of the format, not necessarily metagame for Elves, which was on a decline, and the deck's very, very powerful.
Well, I know Colin knows that he's in a tough matchup here against Elves. When you're playing Death and Taxes, there are definitely some matchups that are close, your Delver matchups. There's some matchups that are kind of blowouts. Sneak and Show, for example. You're great against that deck. And then there's some matchups that are very difficult for you. There aren't a ton, but Elves is definitely one of them.
It's so weird because Death and Taxes is a deck where all the creatures are selected with interacting in mind, and somehow Elves is able to sneak past all of it. Revoker does a little bit of work. Revoker is not bad, and Spirit of the Labyrinth is not bad either, but none of those are the type of lights out cards that you see, you know, Thalia against Storm or Caracas against Sneak and Show. Death and Taxes has no card to go to of that power level to try to skirt this matchup.
A Plains will start things off here for Logan. Hoey has a Forest and a copy of Finhorn Elves, as now we've got a little Enlightened Tutor action. Don't see this that often.
No, there's 2 in the sideboard, and it allows him to go get Spirit of the Labyrinth here, or equipment as the need may arise. You can see that Colin also brought in his Cataclysms here, hoping to get one good threat into play, using Cataclysm to leave Hoey very light on resources and hoping that one threat can carry the day.
Aethersworn Canoness is the weapon of choice here for Logan. So we'll see if this can help him at all.
A lot of cards that are good at shutting off the glimpse stuff, and it wouldn't surprise if Hoey just cut them from his deck. Between Spirit of the Labyrinth, Aethersworn Canonist, very hard to get glimpse going.
Canoness is the draw. There's a port. There is the creature that was searched up via Enlightened Tutor. Crater Behemoth to draw here for Hoey. Elvish Visionary coming on in, cantrip in. It's a Windswept Ethan to passing of the turn. We'll go back Colin's way. Colin will take a draw. Cannon is going to come into the red zone here for 2. Of course, this one really constricts what both players can do.
Yep. Though Colin, a fair number of artifacts in his deck, and with ports and wastelands, is often casting just 1 spell a turn anyway.
Yeah. Kind of the plan, really. Use this to your advantage.
And this really is the problem with Death and Taxes in the matchup. They've got a lot of, you know, hate cards that are A+ against a class of opponents. And there's nothing that Colin really has in the matchup that's better than a B-. They're all okay.
Yep.
You know, Spirit Labyrinth's okay. This one Candace is okay. But they're not the types of, they're not the power level that a lot of the other hate bears are in other matchups.
There's a Bayou. This is an Abrupt Decay. Time for that to get off the table. Hoey will draw now, as that was action that took place in his upkeep. Let's find that Reclamation Sage again. Time for a Quirion Ranger. This could be a good turn here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Hoey has no land drop to make, so this is going to make a lot of mana.
Yeah. Gonna pick up the Bayou, untap the Finhorn Elves. Quirion Ranger will flip upside down, which means he's used it.
And this is a really nice play, too, because it allows Hoey to elude the Wasteland in play with his Bayou if he's feeling so inclined. He may redeploy to just get a bunch of stuff in play, but if he, say, had another Abrupt Decay in his hand and wanted to protect the Bayou from Wasteland, he now has that option as well.
Looks like those beatdowns are in order.
Beatdown City?
Yeah, teach him a lesson. There's the Bayou. Here's the Wirewood. I mean, he's building up a nice board now.
Yep.
Now we're going to go back Colin's way.
And this is a spot where, you know, if Colin were to have Cataclysm, it would be nice, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not good enough to catch him up.
No, not even a little.
I mean, I'm sure he'd be thrilled to have it. It's better than the alternative, which is Hoey probably kills you next turn.
Sure, sure. It's interesting, we just see Elves as a combo deck, and most of the time it is. And this is the combo deck that Death and Taxes does not want to play against. Wants to play against almost every other combo deck.
Yep.
But this is so hard for them to beat because it's based around creatures. Colin trying to figure out what he can do here to get himself out of the jam that he's in, and I'm not sure there really is anything. He does have Phyrexian Invoker in hand. He can go a little bit more mana now, but Quirion Ranger, Finhorn Elves, they don't really care about that.
None of this is a long-term plan without Umezawa's Jitte. As we saw, Colin did some good stuff game one. It wasn't like he did nothing, just not enough.
Provoker's going to name Wirewood Symbiote.
And again, Revoker is another example of like some utility, but nowhere near enough.
A port activation too. It's just very hard to win this game.
And Hoey trying to find some way if he can cobble together to kill this turn. He does have Crater Hoof in hand. With a Cradle, he would easily be able to do it. As it stands, he's really short on mana. He can keep adding to his board, though. And I think he also has the option of getting a Reclamation Sage into play this turn, which adds more to the board, unlocks the Wirewood Symbiote, and now he's got Symbiote plus Reclamation Sage going, which we know Colin's deck is just all about artifacts and enchantments as, you know, any sort of disruption he has in this matchup. So this interaction is really problematic and speaks to the problems of the matchup here. This is not even the primary thing that Matthew is trying to accomplish in the matchup, but it's just another interaction that Colin needs to find a way to work around, and that's very tough to do.
At least he's got a GT now, but I don't know if there's anything he can work towards here.
Right, it's Symbiote plus Reclamation Sage makes that kind of a non-starter. Although, I guess there's this.
My favorite card. Or not my exact favorite, but I've always loved this. But this is what we kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, where Hoey can just, you know, pick up some stuff, untap some things, and then just kind of work his way out of it.
Yeah, he gets to bounce some of the stuff back to his hand, keep a lot of mana. So, again, this is, we spoke of this before. This card is not horrible for Colin here. It's better than just dying, but this is not a long-term solution. Now, Hoey still gets to keep a fair bit of his mana here. A lot of cards in hand, gets to keep the Bayou, but it is better than the alternative.
Here's an attack. It'll be for 3 points of damage. Looks like he's actually activating for mana to play an Elvish Visionary. My apologies.
So the Cataclysm, just a temporary reprieve.
I still like Cataclysm's deck. Like, you know, my thought process now is, should it be Wrath of God or Day of Judgment? But there's, like...
The problem is you need it for a bunch of different roles,
Yeah.
right? There's some matchups where you want it as a control measure, and some matchups where you want it actually as an aggression measure.
Yeah.
Armageddon doesn't fill that role, and neither does Wrath of God.
Yeah.
So I am not a Cataclysm fan. I've been on the record
You have
about-
been very anti-Cataclysm for some time now.
I like an Armageddon
Yeah.
myself because I just want that kind of effect for the matchup where I'm the aggressor.
Sure.
But I can respect that neither Armageddon nor Wrath of God fulfill all the roles that you want for that kind of effect.
But in this instance, Cataclysm doesn't fill all the roles either. There's
Yeah.
no perfect card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm just not a big fan of this kind of effect against elves.
Well,
You know what I mean?
This is a desperate time, desperate measures
Yeah.
thing. That's all this is. This isn't a. I don't think this is a card that Colin really even wants for the matchup.
Right.
Or even really wants to board in, but he has nothing else to do. Is now here's a natural order.
And
There's
this
just
should-
nothing you can do.
Yeah. This should be a wrap.
We hate percentages. This is. Oh, he's going to get Progenitor. It's not greater theme. I'm a little surprised by that, I guess. But
I don't think it was lethal is the issue.
sure. But I mean, this just feels like a lot of the time just like a 90-10.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, I know that Dave Shields beat Ross in the finals in Providence last year, but that's how big of an upset it was.
Yeah, Ross had to have a lot of bad things break
Yeah.
for him, and Dave had to draw and play pretty close to perfectly.
Which, to his credit,
he did.
He did.
He did what he had to do.
Yes.
But
He did those things, but
more often than not, the games are going to resemble this. than
they
something
really
else.
are. They really, really are. It's just this uphill climb of getting GT active. That's what like the entire game revolves around for Death and Taxes. And Elves has both answers to GT and ways to prevent it from being active.
Yeah,
from going active.
You know, you got. Now the deck even has bouncing Reclamation Sage as a way to fight that too.
It just seems like it's so much to overcome. There are, you know, situations where Mother of Runes will push a creature through on GT, or you can get a GT on a Sarah Avenger, but it's so tough.
Post board, there's abrupt decays too.
Yep.
It's
It's so tough. There's a Sarah Avenger. Super late to the party.
nice.
Come on.
The foil full art is a nice touch. Usually there was some effort made. I can appreciate that. I've always appreciated the player going into the tank against Progenitus. It's like, you know, man, don't worry about it. There's nothing to be done. It has protection from literally everything.
Colin going to draw, I think, one more card here for this game and this match. Hoey with actually the Creator of Behemoth in hand. And an extension of the hand. Matt Hoey's going to win this match here over Colin Logan, 2-0. Elves will take care of Death and Taxes. Hoey gets a little measure of revenge after his finals loss in Kansas City to to Logan, and he moves on to 10-2. You know, what's interesting about this kind of matchup, Hoey's deep in the tournament at this point.